Okay, so if you've ever felt creatively stuck, I mean, who hasn't, right? Then you've probably heard people whispering about this legendary, maybe even a little controversial 12-week program that promises to unlock your inner artist. Well, today, that's what we're diving into. Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. We're going to find out what it is, and the big question, does it actually work?
And, that quote from The Guardian, it really isn't an exaggeration. Since this book came out back in 1992, it's sold millions of copies and has developed this almost cult-like following. For so many creative people, it's way more than just a book. It's a full-on, life-changing spiritual path.
And its influence? Oh, it reaches the very, very top of the creative world. I mean, we're not talking about niche artists here. We're talking about A-list actors, Grammy-winning pop stars, and best-selling authors. Just look at this list. These are people at the absolute peak of their game who credit this program with helping them unblock and really harness their creative power.
So that's the big question, right? How does it actually work? What are you even doing for those 12 weeks? Well, let's break it down. We're going to dive into the two foundational tools that are basically the engine of this entire program.
All right, first up is probably the most famous and, let's be honest, maybe the most demanding part of the whole practice. It's called the Daily Pages, and Cameron herself calls it a clearing exercise.
And the instructions here are super specific. We're talking first thing in the morning, before you do anything else, before coffee, definitely before you check your phone, you sit down and you write 3 full pages by hand. Now, this isn't a diary, and it is absolutely not meant to be good writing. It's just writing.
And this is the absolute key. Cameron really insists that the whole point is the process, not the product. You're not even supposed to reread them. They are for your eyes and your eyes only. It's just a space to dump anything and everything that crosses your mind, with zero filter or judgment.
So, why on earth would you do this every single day? Well, it's all about getting that mental clutter, the anxieties, the petty complaints, the endless to-do lists, out of your head and onto the page. The actress Michaela Coel has a great way of putting it. She calls it clearing the gunk. And Cameron, she borrows from Carl Jung, saying you're basically meeting your shadow and taking it out for coffee. The idea is that by doing this, you can finally bypass that nagging inner critic and start your day with a much clearer, more focused mind.
Okay, let's move on to the second core tool. And this is the one a lot of people consider the fun part. So if morning pages are all about output, getting stuff out, the artist date is all about input. Or, as Julia Cameron puts it, filling the well.
So what is it? It's basically a block of time, maybe a couple of hours every single week, that you set aside to do something playful and inspiring just for yourself. Seriously, think of it like taking your inner creative child out on a date. It could be anything. You could go visit a gallery, explore an old antique shop, or even just sit in a new coffee shop and sketch for a while.
Now, there are some official guidelines for this, and one rule in particular really stands out. It must be done alone. Cameron is super firm on this point. The whole goal is to avoid outside influence, so you can really connect with your own intuition, without the distraction of someone else's opinions or their needs.
But here's the thing. This rule is also a perfect example of how people adapt the program to actually work for them. I mean, let's face it, for a lot of us, a solo public adventure sounds kind of intimidating at first. So what do? They start by going with a friend. It helps build the habit, you get over that initial awkwardness, and then eventually you graduate to doing the solo dates.
Okay, so we've got the two main tools, the daily pages and the weekly artist dates. But to really get what the Artist's Way is all about, we have to go a level deeper. We've got to look at the philosophy that's powering the whole thing.
See, at its very heart, the book is subtitled A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity. And that's no accident. Cameron frames creativity not as some active ego, but as this divine energy that we all have access to. So the whole program is really about clearing away the blocks, the fear, the self-doubt, the cynicism, all the stuff that separates us from that natural creative flow.
And this part is crucial. While the language is definitely spiritual, the actual methodology is this fascinating mashup of established therapeutic traditions. The book's whole framework is modeled on 12-step recovery programs, but then it pulls in concepts from Jungian psychology, Gestalt therapy, and even mindfulness practices like what's called parts work, identifying and healing your inner child versus that inner critic. Okay, so that's the theory. That's the how and the why. But what happens when people in the real world actually try to follow this pretty demanding 12-week program? Let's get into the praise and the pitfalls. And, well, the feedback is pretty divided. On one hand, you have so many people reporting these profound experiences of self-discovery, these creative breakthroughs they never ever thought possible. But on the other hand, this program is incredibly demanding. The time commitment alone can be huge, and if you miss a day, it's so easy to feel guilty and just fall off the wagon completely. For some people, that spiritual focus can feel a little, well, woo-woo and alienating. And critics are quick to point out that it kind of assumes a level of time and financial privilege that not everyone has. There's also a serious warning. It can even be risky for people with unresolved trauma to start digging into their past without any professional support.
And that brings us to another key critique, a major sticking point for any skeptics out there. The book is absolutely filled with powerful testimonials and anecdotes, but its claims are not backed up by rigorous, evidence-based studies. Its effectiveness really seems to rely on your faith in the process itself, not on any verifiable data.
So, what's the takeaway here? What's the final verdict? Well, maybe the healthiest way to approach the artist's way is to see it not as this rigid dogma that you have to follow perfectly, but more like a powerful toolkit. You can just take the pieces that resonate with you, like maybe it's the discipline of a daily writing habit or the simple joy of a weekly artist date, and adapt them to fit your own life and your own needs.
Because ultimately, the whole program is really just an invitation to take your own creativity seriously. So that leaves us with one final question for you. Whether you decide to follow the book or not, what's one small playful thing you could do this week, just for yourself, to go out there and fill your own creative well?